Just putting a short video together about the Load and Go DC1 on a HAAS ST20Y twin spindle lathe. So basically when we set up the machine, I've got basically a interface that we will work through to set up however many parts you're going to do. Over on the side we've got a drawer style system, of course, for the DC1, and inside of my drawers I've got some material. The nice thing is the material, if you're missing parts, if you don't have parts in every location, it will skip that spot that doesn't have a part and grab the next part. The setup of the parts themselves, when you put your parts into your template, you're basically sliding your two trays together, and that self-centers the part inside of the middle of the template. So as you can see, the part is self-centered in there now. When I open it back up, I just make sure when I open it, I give it some room for it to drop the parts back off. I'm going to slide my drawer back into place and let it lock. Close up my door. And then over on my interface is how I'm going to end up setting it up. Now I'll have to hold on to the camera so you can see. But as you can see here, it says no drawers are ready. To resume load drawer parts on the drawer, press the appropriate drawer ready button, then press the play button. So over here, I'm just going to press my load parts. It says my drawer is ready, but I still have to set up my machine basically so it knows how it's doing these parts. So I'm going to use this lower right-handed arrow down here, and it's going to start asking me questions about loading up the machine. So it wants to know when I'm loading the part, where am I putting it, main or sub? As you can see, it's check marked. It is a touch screen, so I've chosen my main spindle for the main part for the first load. It's asking when I unload it, where do I want it to unload from? I'm using my sub spindle to unload it. That's check marked. I'm picking up my gripper location, whether I'm clamping on the ID or the OD. Clamping on the OD. My unload gripper setup, again, I'm clamping on the OD when I grab it out of the sub spindle. Wants to know if I want to have air blowing on my chuck. Right now we just have the air blow turned off for the main spindle. Same thing sub spindle, asking if I want the air on or not. Again, just keep cursoring through your selections. Wants to know if we have a single part setup or if we're doing dual. We're doing a dual part setup. Of course, one gripper for loading the raw, the other gripper for taking out your finished part. And then we get to the interface of how we're calling up the program. Now, in my case, we're calling up program 40. So I'm going to choose program 40, and then I'm going to load the parameters. So when I load the parameters, basically now it's got my program 40. So that's basically set up. So at this point now, I should be able to leave my screen, and I should be able to press my play button to actually run my parts. All right, I'm back. Now when you first set up your jaws, it is going to touch off of the pad to know where the gripper is. It's also touching off of a pin on that pad too, to know where the center of your grippers are. So it's basically locking in that location. It's going to do the same thing with the sub spindle part. So the gripper for the sub spindle, my finished gripper, is touching off to establish the Z height, and then it's going to go and touch off of the pin as well to establish the center of the sub spindle gripper as well. Once it's done doing that, it's going to go back into its hold state, and it's basically waiting for me to run my program. So if I come over, I will pause this for now. So I've repressed the play button to run my routine. The robot has come down, grabbed drawer number 1 where our parts are located, and now it is going into the grab my first part. Now that first part, when it comes down, it just comes down slow when it's grabbing it just in case something wasn't set up right. It doesn't want to plow into anything, basically. So my gripper is going to come down. If there wasn't a part there, it would move on to the next part. So we're going down, we're grabbing, this is some 1.5 by 2.5 inch 1018 steel. Grabs my grip, or grabs my part, I should say. It's going to reestablish the height, and it's also compressing the spring in the main gripper, so that way when it loads it into the chuck, it'll push it up against the part. Now what we're going to do is we actually have this machine didn't have an auto door, so we actually use the robot to open up the door. It's an option. And now we're going to bring our part down in, and we are going to load it into the chuck. So we load it up inside our chuck, we clamp our part, and clamp the gripper. We're going to go and use our robot again to close the door. And basically that is what it's going to do. So now we're going to end up calling up our program to run our part. This happens to be program 40 that it's grabbing. Now the robot just is coming down and it's looking for the next part to grab, but since there's no part to grab, it just moves on to the next one. So now it's going to go, there's a part in this location. It's going to go and grab that part, and then it's going to go and wait outside the door. Actually, I should say it's going to reestablish its height of that part first and compress the spring, and then it's just going to go and wait for my part to be done running. So it's going to wait in the position so that it can open up the door. Zoom all the way, oops, zoom out, I'm sorry. So the robot basically is just waiting above the door. The part's going to be machined, then it'll take the part out of the sub spindle and then reload the raw part and continue on. I'll restart the video once we get to that point. So the part that we're running basically is just it's a retention knob socket is all it is. So we're able to machine this in the main spindle, flip it around, machine the second side, and the sub spindle machining the hex, and then the robot will take it out. So actually right now it's basically just doing the part pass off. So it had moved it and put it inside my sub, and now it's going to do the turning on my sub. It's going to go and machine my hex. And since I'd walked in on the machine, this machine does have an area scanner on it. So when you walk in on it, it'll go to yellow, slowing the robot down. And if you go too far, it changes to red. Now when it changes to red, it basically stops the robot so that it's not interacting with the operator. And what it will end up doing then is it will give you a robot is faulted message. It will give you a safety area scanner, and it tells you how to clear it out. It simply says to resume, press the reset fault button, then press play. Same thing basically down below. So my reset button is down here, and then I just repress play, and now the robot would continue running. So area scanner is nice. It can be adjusted so that it can be set up for the size of machine you have. So right now we're just milling the flats that are on this retention knob socket. Just got a 1-inch insertable mill, rotating every 60 degrees, machining on the sub spindle, and when that's done, it'll pass it off. Okay, we're back opening up the door with the robot. Robot is repositioning. Try and zoom in on this a little bit better. So it's going and grabbing basically the part on my sub spindle. Can't see too well, but we've got the guard right here by the door, so I just wanted to stay to the right of that. So it's taking my part out of my sub spindle. It's going to put my main part into my main spindle, I should say my raw part. And then we're going to close up the door and we're going to run another part. I'm just going to put the machine in a single block while this is running. And basically then it would end up unloading my parts. So let me finish running, I guess. So my finished part is just going to go and get dropped back off. Again, that first drop off of the first finished part, just done slowly, just to make sure everything is copacetic. Drops the part off, and again, now it would just repeat the whole routine. Rotate my main gripper around, look for my next part. If it can't find it, moves on to the next part. So it's not going to find anything here. It'll go back to my next row. There is a part there, and it will just grab it and reseat it and continue on. And works very well. I've been using it for a few years now.